Hi, good evening, everyone. We're just gonna wait a little bit more for people to come in. We're gonna start at 4 p.m. Singapore time. Um, just gonna set up the stream, and then once that is done, then we can begin the webinar. I just want to make sure that you guys can see my screen and you're able to hear me well. If you're not able to do so, just ping on group chat in the chat below or under the Q&A section, and I'll try and remedy this. Okay, so I think we're just right on time. Okay, so we're just right on time. I'm just gonna go ahead and begin with the introduction first, and then we'll see as we'll come along, we can answer any questions on the Q&A section. Okay, so my name is Sherman, and today we're going to go through euro dollar price action for the next two session, the London session and the New York session. Okay, my background is in algorithmic trading, so the concepts that I'm going to go through would be very much related to systematic trading. All of the strategies are based off things that you can measure and calculate through either code or by visualizing it on the charts itself. From time to time, I'll go through some concepts, some fundamental concepts, but those will be in line with the outcomes of the technical analysis. So if you have any questions, feel free to reach me at this link here on LinkedIn. And before we begin, I have a disclaimer to put out, right? Any form of trading is extremely risky. You may lose all of your assets. So before you act upon any of the signals of the concepts that we're going through today, do make sure that you seek independent advice and you understand the risk involved before executing these trades. Okay, without further ado, let me just change our screen to the trading view. And today again, we're going to go through euro dollar. Okay. Yeah, let me know if you guys can see my screen. Right. Or is it a bit off for this? Okay. Okay. So how we're going to go about this would be that I'll first go through the concepts of the indicators that I'm using. We're going to go from the higher time frames, and then before we drew it down to the lower time frames and fine-tune the entries for the upcoming session. Okay, I'm just going to remove all the drawings from our previous sessions. Okay, so we'll start off with the 4 hours time frame, 4 hours time frame, and the choice of indicator that I'm using today would be the pivot points. Pivot points are basically projected lines based off the previous time period. And if you go under indicators, you can just type in pivot points and you get a whole range of indicators that supports or calculates for you the pivot points for the next session. The one that I'm using is the one that's called Wins pivot. The calculation is the same, just that there are certain areas that will be highlighted that will be useful for us as we do our analysis. Okay, so go ahead, add this into your chart, and if you click on the settings cog on the top left hand corner for the pivot points, you'll be able to select the time frame. Okay, if you set it to chart, it's going to automatically define that time range for you. But otherwise, if you're going to go according to our analysis today, you can set it to the daily, 4 hours, and the 1 hour time frame. Like what I've done here, 1 hour daily, 4 hours, and the hour time frame. Okay. So visually, you can see that it's in a downtrend. Euro dollar has been in a downtrend on the higher time frame. Okay, but I'm just gonna add one more weekly so that since we are on the 4 hours right now, we can use the weekly to determine where we are on this time frame. Okay, so I'll just go through a little bit about the pivot points. Okay, so pivot points are basically 9 lines that are being drawn for the given period. So now we are on the weekly time frame. We have 9 lines for us to guide us through this coming week. Okay, the most important line would be the pivot line, which is derived from the previous open, high, low, and close. And from this pivot point, we will get 2 additional lines above it, which is R1 and R2, which represents the 2 resistance line, and S1 and S2, which represents our support lines. And in between these major lines, say for example, the pivot line and S1, there is a middle line called M2, and then there is another middle line M1 between S1 and S2. So 1, 2, 3, 4. And that's basically how this is being drawn. Okay, so there are basically 2 outcomes to where prices will fall within these lines. Okay, the first outcome, which is going to happen 80 or 90% of the time, is that prices fall within S2 and R2. All right, and the other binary outcome will be that prices fall above R2 for a bullish narrative, and prices fall below S2 for a bearish narrative. Okay, so what we are trying to look for on this particular time frame is to identify when was the last time prices was above closest above R2 or closest below S2 to determine the weekly narrative. Okay, so just for rule of thumb, okay, the most obvious one was on the week of 10th of July, where prices broke above R2. And what I usually do is that I will just map it out on a weekly basis, right? And if you are coding this out, because all of these areas are being calculated, this would be your key area to buy. Okay, so when prices went above and closed above R2, this was the bullish narrative that was being presented to us. Okay, and this was on the weekly basis. So in actual fact, when this happens, what we usually tend to do is to get a buy limit and for prices to break higher above. So this is usually what would happen. Okay. And in the case of prices falling below this level, this would determine our reversal point. Okay. And all major reversals usually happen in such a manner. There's a very high probability chance that when such a thing happens, it's a reversal. So what do I mean by that? Once you break above this zone has become a support zone. The expectation is that prices will hit this line, hit this area, and basically create a higher high. So in the event that prices breaks below, this will become a resistance zone, and this is usually how a reversal zone happens. Okay, and out of position buys, right, coming into a strong sell, causing this support to become a resistance, and then this becomes a bearish narrative. So if we were to look at prices right now, we do not see something like that. What do I mean by that is that the closest that we could have gotten to a reversal is something like this. And we needed prices to close and end this week below S2 but prices went back up. So this is still within the expected range. And then now we are still within this range. So again, this could have been a resistance turn support zone, but because prices did not close, the sellers were not convinced that, you know, like prices were going to go lower. There were buyers coming in to push price up. So this would have been invalidated. Okay. So overall trend, there is nothing on the weekly time frame to tell us that we are in a reversal channel or we are going to see a reversal in euro dollar. So our weekly time frame, we're still looking at a bearish narrative. Okay. So far, so good. Are there any questions? Am I going too fast? Do you want me to go through any concepts? So again, all of these concepts will be the same on every time frame. So once we have all of that aligned on from the highest time frame to the lowest time frame, then basically we can identify entries for ourselves. Okay, so if I'm going to go down to the daily, and once I go down to the daily, it's okay to move down to your 15 minutes chart so that you can see more of the activity within each block of pivot points. Okay. So same thing, the immediate zones that we can actually draw up is on this day, 12th of October, Thursday, M2 to S2 was breached. It formed this nice resistance, and this whole thing was due to your retail sales, right? This was some event, some news happening, and so it broke above, right? So once it broke above, right, it moved up. This became a very strong support, and now it's breaking down again, and so this maintains as our resistance zone. So this is our POI on a daily basis. We can look for other POIs below. This POI here is important as well. Right, this POI here. And all of this point of interest, why are they important? Because you see from here, price went below. It reacted at this zone again, right? Not enough sellers. And then this was due to the event. I think this was FOMC or something, right? And once it came back down, this formed a support. So this was the point of interest on many occasions before prices move up. So again, we can use this as an indication of a POI, and now we're in that POI. Okay, so this is very nice for us because now we have a support POI and a resistance POI for us to work in that range. Okay. So let me just highlight these two areas as well. So these two areas are highlighted. Okay, this is usually the sell target. So what do I mean by sell target? So if you were to, at the start of today, right? At the start of this current day, right? If you were to sell, your expectation would be that the sell is always above P in this premium zone for you to sell. And your target would be M1, okay? There is also another target up here, R2, M4. And you need to find the discounted zone for you to buy. And the discounted zone is where you are right now. So the idea would be from here, you buy up. Okay. Again, this is strictly looking at just the activity for today. We're not looking at what happened in the past. We're not looking at price levels previously and how they have reacted at different price levels. This is just based off today's pivot points. Okay. So the idea here today would then be, given that these 2 points were on a daily basis, we would expect prices to react strongly at M2 for a buy, and if it reacts actively at M3 for a sell. And you can see that M3 coincides with this strong daily point, and M2 coincides with this daily support zone as well. Okay, so to get more clarity, you can go down to the 4 hours, now that we know that these are the two key areas for the London and New York session today. Okay. So what we can really see here would be that this is where we will get our sell zone. Okay, this analysis is the same. This is on the 4 hours right now. Sorry. This is on the H4. And what we are trying to find out is that if prices were to come up to this area, this was when the last 4 hours broke below S2 and closes below S2, right? And so this H4 coincides with the daily resistance, coincides with our daily pivot. And so if prices would come up to this level, right, this would be a strong sell, right? And in the event that it breaks above this level, then it becomes our support, and we'll be targeting this area here. Okay, so at this 4 hours, it's sufficient for us to actually draw the plan for the next 4 hours. Okay, so we are at this support level. Support level, we do not want to sell. Okay, the only case where we'll sell at this support level is when this support level becomes a support term resistance level. So selling here, this will be the only case for a sell, will be that prices go up to M3, break below S2. Again, we need prices to close below S2 for the London session, and wait for it to retrace back up to this level before we sell. And this will be a short-term scalp, right? Even though our long-term, our higher time frame structure is telling us to sell, this is at a very discounted level. So we might not, selling here might not be a good price to sell at. We might want to wait for prices to go up a little higher before selling. Okay, so this is the sell expectation. And how we usually do it is that you need to make sure that the conditions are in place. So basically, it has to break below S2, retest this level, and once we enter this sell, we need to make sure that we know where our target is, which is the daily target of M1, and our stop loss is just above this support level. Okay, if it's giving us an RR ratio of more than 3, that is sufficient enough for us to actually enter the trade. Okay, but again, this is if you're able to use stop limits order, then this would be basically the idea. Stop at S2, which is 1.05187, and your limit order at 1.0528. So this is the sell in line with the higher time frame narrative of a bearish move. Okay. But of course, if you're a little greedy, then you would want this H4 resistance zone overlapping with the daily resistance zone, daily point of interest, to be the area where you want to sell. Right? So ideally, if you're greedy, you will wait. If you're patient enough, okay, you will wait for prices to go M3, bring it down to M2, and your target within this 4 hours would be M4 and R2. Again, prices should not break above R2 and close above R2, because if that's the case, then on the 4 hours, you are bullish. Okay, you can see that prices always react at R2. If it ever gets to S2, R2, they usually react strongly against that point. Okay, so you want prices to maintain within R2. What do I mean by that? you want prices to fall within R2, right? Wait for the next 4 hours, up again, create this order block here, right? So that once it breaks below, you're able to do a sell, and target price is somewhere around here. Okay. Yeah. So this is our first option. This is 1, and then 2 is somewhere around. This is our second sell option. Again, we're calling for sells because of the higher time frame narrative, and also because of the overall fundamentals of dollar strengthening, right? Yeah, so this is a very aggressive move if you're selling. Wait for prices to fall below S2, retrace up to this level before you sell. And for the better option would be that you hit R2, stay within this R2 S2 limits, come down, tap into this area, do a change of character, right? This will be a change of character. And then you target the discounted, the premium zone, 50% of it, right? And you sell from there. Right? Yeah, so this is euro dollar for you. So you guys, before I continue with maybe some other pair, do you guys have any questions on euro dollar? Okay, there's one question on when to close. Okay, the target price, the stop loss will just be above this level, above the resistance. H4 resistance would do, because our analysis was based off H4. Stop loss would be above 1.0565. You can do 1 or 2 pips to account for your spreads, but the target would be here, 1.0488. So if you manage to get this sell, if prices were to move up to this level, right, the sell will be somewhere around here. Your stop loss just above this level, and your target would be this. Again, this is not just a hocus pocus area. This is on the daily target zone. M1, S2 is your daily sell target zone. Okay. So if I remove everything, right, this is kind of like the idea. Daily, it's also showing that we want to sell at this resistance level. So at this point, if you were to sell, we can only sell if prices breaks below this D1 support, and wait for it to retest this resistance here. This is the most aggressive sell, but you can try and enter anywhere within the 50%. Okay, so this is 6.44 RR. This is 4.32 RR. Okay. Got it. Okay. We can take a look at gold next. These two pairs are hot favorites. Okay, so you can see prices moving up. So I'm pretty confident that we will want to see this play out. Okay, we will want to see this play out, and then this push down usually comes from a news event. And if you look at the economic calendar today, there will be news in 4 hours time. So it ties in nicely. Initial jobless claims tonight, and they are expecting an increase in jobless claims. Okay. So if there is an increase in jobless claims, then there might be a case for dollar to hold steady, right? For the Fed rates to hold steady. But if jobless claims falls, right, then you can see prices coming down to these levels. So if you have a lower than expected jobless claims, the scenario will be a sell, but the consensus is that there might be an increase in jobless claims. So that might give us that push that we need to reach this level before coming back down again. Okay. No issues with the fundamentals, right? Okay. So let's go with gold now. This we have another 5 more minutes. So that's euro dollar for us. Okay. So gold, yesterday we talked about it. It did not play out as expected to reach our, but of course this is the weekly target, so we are not expecting things to happen within a day. We still have today and tomorrow to play out. But I think the emphasis was at 1942 being the critical zone, and so it did tap after hitting our R2, tap back to this level and then bounce up. So usually when we look at this scenario, what we're trying to identify is that an area where prices will react aggressively, and once it reacts aggressively, it should create a higher high for this scenario. So this was a bullish narrative, so it should have created a higher high. But once we saw this rejection, right? Once we saw this rejection down to this level, we can just put our stop loss to break even and try and get out this range already. Okay. So what happens in a range is that it will just bounce, and if you are not taking profits at the upper level of the range, then you're just missing out on the profits. Okay. The opportunities will keep coming, so do not need to worry if you have sufficient opportunities. So again, if you look at this, once we have such a big move here, this again, 1942 will still remain as our key support level. And why is that so? Because prices broke above and closed above R2, and so this is our key support level. And if let's say I were to remove this, you can see that you have liquidity building up along these levels. So you have liquidity forming around here. Okay, you have liquidity forming here. What do I mean by liquidity forming here? These are all buyers with their stop losses below. And so once you enter this region, you will have a bunch of market sell orders, the stop losses, that will trigger your price to hit our identified support level. So if price to come down here, break below here, you can see a quick push the H4. And what we'll be looking for is a reversal and then take the higher high up. Okay, this move here also aggressive due to your trendline liquidity, right? All of these sellers having all these stop losses, right, here, and now you're pushing it up. So this will be our key sell zone. And again, this is very immediate based on our previous analysis on Wednesday. If you guys do not remember what we went through on Wednesday, okay, again, on the daily, on every level, daily, week, on the weekly as well. Okay, if you look at the weekly, we go up to the 4 hours. Okay, on the weekly, we are bullish, and this was our weekly buy zone. And now our target zone is here, same thing, R2 and M4. This is our target weekly level. Last week was that push up. Start of this week, we are looking to buy to reach the 1992 level. Okay, that's on the higher time frame. On the daily, this push up, which happened on Friday, right, also give us the indication that we are on a bullish trend. So whatever that we are doing this week would be buys only. We're just looking for retracements and we're buying on every support. Okay. And so again, 1942 is our key support level, right? What happens if this key support level is broken? Okay, that's a very good question. So if this key support level is broken, which let me show you what that would mean. Again, this key support level is on the sell target M1S2, and it's also on the next 4 hours M1S2. So this might be a zone where prices may break below. Okay, so what happens is that usually when it breaks below, it has to close this 4 hours. If it was to close this 4 hours, that means within the next 30 minutes, it has to break below S2, close below, and this will be our new resistance. Again, if it's going to take the next 4 hours to go below it, we will need to do something like that. And then the next 8 hours for us to actually sell back at this level. So no matter what, these two levels, this 1942 level will be a critical buy or sell zone, depending on which side of the price it's on. Right now, this is our support level. Unless it is broken and closed after that 4-hour block, we will always consider this as a support level. Now, even if we break that level, okay, let me just redraw that, okay? If we break S2, right, close S2, take this level, and we go down, what will be the target for that sell? Right, your target for that sell, it didn't really hit M3, but it's still within that daily sell scalp zone. Your area to target would be M1. And again, this D1 is a support level, so you might come down to this level. Okay, but this is not the primary plan. This is in the event that a freak incident happened and we want to look for sells. 1942 is still that sell zone, and our target would be D1, which is roughly around 400 pips. Okay, but the expectation, right, the high probable trade would be like that, and our target is still 1992. Okay, 1992 here, right? Or if you go down to the 4 hours, can we actually craft a plan for a smooth transition up to 1992? Yes, we can. With this 4 hours, right? We want to hit to M2 or S1. S1 will be the same area here, right? In fact, you will not want to buy S1 because of this liquidity, right? You will still want to buy at 1942, right? So if the sell continues to S1, S1 is not a buy, okay? Let me just try and tell you guys what I'm saying, okay? Why S1 is not a buy, okay? You will not want to buy this level going into the London and New York session, okay? Because there's liquidity, sell side liquidity sitting here. So if you were to tap here, once we hit this zone, it will push prices down to 1942 and it will execute your buy order anyway. So if prices were to come down in the next 1 to 2 hours, the best buy would still be 1942, right? The alternative is that we enter the next 4 hours block without hitting M2. So it comes up, hit the pivot point, reach our target. And again, this would be our previous high, right? So this is something, hit our previous high, next 4 hours block, we go down to our pivot point again. It hasn't been drawn because now we are more than 4 hours behind. So once it comes to these 4 hours, there'll be a pivot point that we can actually do our secondary buy, and we move up to our M4. And this will happen all the way up to 1992. Okay. All right, so is it okay if you want to buy now? There isn't a confirmation to buy now. Okay. So the question is, can we actually buy now since it's the same level as what has already been projected? So most of the time you can, but you wouldn't know what's going to happen in the last 25 minutes. Because again, all of these lines are dependent on the close. Okay, the close of this 4 block will affect where these lines end up. So the best would be to trade at the start of this new lines. Okay, what do I mean by that is, yeah, in our previous 4 hours period, okay, prices came down, hit the pivot point here, and then it went down, hit the target sell zone, right? And this can only be done once prices close. These 9 lines are created. And again, once it comes up to here, right, you hit the pivot point, you came down, you formed that equal low, even though the target was M1. And if it was M1, you could have predicted that move because it would have been a nice lower low for you to sell and then come back down to it. So this would have been probable as well, right? But because of this, all of this pent up stop losses, now we have pushed up and hit our M4. So the fact that we have reached our M4, buyers are coming into the market, sellers that spent their entire morning selling in this downtrend have either gotten out, taken profit, or they were stopped out and prices have moved up here. Okay. So since we hit M4, the same thing, when we hit M1 here, we would sell at the next pivot down to M1. Okay. So now that we have hit M4, as long as we close above the pivot points, our next buy will be our pivot, and then we move up higher. Okay, this point here, if you are buying within the next 4 hours, it will be something like that. And I mean, you don't even need to look at the RR, right? Just based off this 4 hours period, the RR is already 10.99, right? But the idea would be our target is 1992. Okay, the target for this week. That means by Friday, if we do not hit this level, there will be another set of weekly pivots shown, and we will need to use those as we'll readjust our targets and our stop losses as well. Okay, if there's nothing else, we are running over time by 7 minutes. Hope you guys were able to follow the analysis, and hopefully this is of help to you guys. There'll be another session tomorrow where I'll be going through gold and euro dollar as well. So I'll see you guys on that session, and we'll be going through the same thing with pivot points and the trading plan for the London and New York session. Okay, I'll thank you guys for coming today, and hope you guys enjoyed it. All right, thank you. See you guys. Bye.